I'm Courtney Sanders, 36, a financial analyst in Baltimore. My parents texted me, cutting me out of the family. Hours before my biggest career deal, from my 25th floor office, Maryland's skyline buzzed with ambition. I'd climbed the ranks at a tech firm for a decade, and that afternoon, I was finalizing a multi-million-dollar merger, my shot at a senior role, built on relentless focus. My phone buzzed, interrupting the grind. I expected a colleague's update, but it was my mother, speaking for both parents. Their calls usually carried orders. Texts were rare, blunt. I opened it. "Don't come to the family reunion. We're cutting ties." No explanation. I read it twice. The office hum fading to silence. No anger, no tears. A sharp calm settled in, like a storm finally passing. Their San Diego reunion was a showcase of control, not connection. I was just a prop, now discarded. My fingers moved fast, logic overriding emotion. I replied, "Understood." Then I called my sharpest ally to pull my name from their hotel chain's $2 million loan guarantee. No going back. I deleted their message, turning back to my merger with new clarity. A thread in their empire snapped. Before I dive into the 88 missed calls, the shocked accountant, and how my family learned I held the cards. Drop your city in the comments. Love knowing where this story lands. To understand the calls, you have to grasp the foundation our family rested on. It wasn't warmth or mutual support, the kind portrayed in feel-good ads during holidays. The Sanders family operated on expectation, with approval doled out sparingly by my mother, Wanda Sanders. She treated it as a limited resource, forcing constant pursuit from her children. I spent my early years chasing fragments of her validation, each one fleeting and conditional. That dynamic etched itself deep during my teenage years in our San Diego home, a sprawling property overlooking the Pacific that symbolized their hotel empire's reach. The air always carried a faint mix of ocean salt and polished wood from the imported furniture. I was 15, standing in the grand living room with its high ceilings and walls lined with awards that mostly belonged to others. In my hands, I clutched a gleaming trophy from the state soccer championship, a victory I'd earned through grueling practices and a game-winning goal that secured the title for my team. My heart pounded with tentative hope, convinced this tangible proof of excellence might finally pierce her indifference. My mother sat in her favored leather armchair, a throne-like position near the window, flipping through a glossy travel magazine focused on luxury resorts. My father, Andrew Sanders, hovered nearby, ever the mediator in our household dynamics. He caught my eye and approached her, gently tapping the magazine. She lowered it with a visible sigh of inconvenience, her gaze sweeping over the trophy in the same detached manner she might appraise a vendor's proposal. "That's nice," she remarked briefly. Before setting the magazine aside and shifting her attention entirely, she turned to praise my older brother, Jacob Sanders, who had just landed an internship at one of their flagship hotels. His opportunity represented the future of the family business, a path she envisioned him dominating with poise and reliability. In that instant, I faded into irrelevance, my achievement dissolving like mist against the room's opulent backdrop. The trophy felt heavier, a symbol of effort that yielded no lasting recognition. Later, alone in my room with the award face down on the desk, my father slipped in quietly. He pressed a small velvet box into my palm, revealing a delicate gold bracelet inside, his standard gesture for smoothing over disappointments. "She means well," he whispered, "but her mind is on the legacy, the hotels that demand her full energy. Deep down, she's impressed by what you've done." The metal chilled against my skin, a substitute for the affirmation I craved. Yet it underscored the patterned discomforts never confronted head-on, merely glossed with material gestures to preserve the facade. From those moments, I internalized the rule governing our interactions. Uncomfortable realities received no direct address. They underwent renovation, layered with layers of costly avoidance to maintain the illusion of harmony. This approach extended beyond personal slights into the broader family operations, where financial strains or ethical shortcuts found similar treatment, obscured behind expansions or acquisitions that projected unassailable strength. Those ingrained lessons shaped how I navigated the world outside their influence, particularly in my professional life. Back in the present, as the merger documents demanded my undivided attention, that same disciplined focus propelled me forward. The deal closed without a hitch that day, a testament to channeling personal turmoil into productive output. Colleagues noted my composure under pressure, unaware of the undercurrents fueling it. The success marked a quiet milestone, one earned independently of familial strings. Yet the echoes of that upbringing lingered, informing every decision to distance myself from their orbit. Wanda's scarcity model had trained me to value self-reliance over conditional praise, a shift that proved invaluable amid the brewing fallout. Andrew's interventions, while well-intentioned, rarely altered the core imbalance, leaving me to forge paths less traveled. Jacob, positioned as the heir apparent, absorbed the benefits without the same scrutiny, his role reinforcing the hierarchy. Reflecting on it now, the San Diego estate itself embodied this philosophy, vast rooms filled with imported artifacts that masked any cracks in the structure. The championship trophy eventually gathered dust in a storage closet, much like sidelined ambitions within the family. My father's gifts accumulated over time, a collection of trinkets symbolizing unvoiced regrets. Wanda's magazines piled up, pages dog-eared on properties that mirrored her aspirations for control. This groundwork explained the resilience I drew upon when their texts arrived. The merger's triumph wasn't coincidence. It stemmed from years of redirecting energy away from futile approvals toward tangible results. In Baltimore's competitive landscape, such traits separated survivors from spectators. The calls represented not just panic, but the unraveling of a system built on fragile pretenses. 3 years back, in their San Diego office, the trap snapped shut with deceptive ease. I was 33, a rising associate in my Baltimore firm, carving an identity separate from the Sanders name. The call came from Wanda's assistant, clipped an imperative and expectation of presence at 4 p.m. sharp. The space embodied her dominance, a vast suite with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Pacific's endless blue. Walls adorned with framed photographs of handshakes alongside minor celebrities and industry moguls. Leather-bound volumes on hotel management lined shelves she seldom touched. Props in a narrative of unassailable expertise. My parents waited as a unified front, a rare alignment that signaled trouble. Wanda skipped formalities, gesturing to the chair across her polished desk, reducing me to an employee rather than offspring. "We require your involvement for the family's stability," she stated, her tone brooking no delay. She pushed a thick folder toward me, the cover emblazoned with loan and security agreement. "The bank demands additional assurances for our expansion, a personal guarantee from key members." I lifted the papers, my analytical mind engaging instantly. The terms outlined a $2 million commitment, tying my personal assets directly to their hotel chain's obligations. Default would expose everything I'd built: savings, investments, future earnings to seizure. "This extends beyond a simple endorsement," I observed, maintaining composure. "Why involve me? Your holdings with Jacob suffice, and my trust share lacks influence." Andrew interjected smoothly, his hand resting lightly on my shoulder in a gesture meant to reassure. "It's a demonstration of solidarity," he explained. "The bank's policy post-downturn insists on full family backing to affirm strength." Wanda leaned forward, her expression hardening into the deal-closing resolve I'd witnessed in boardrooms. "This measures commitment," she pressed. "Are you integral to this lineage, or merely sharing the surname? We must clarify your allegiance." Every professional instinct flared. Warning legal training highlighted the imbalance. Financial acumen flagged the peril of leveraging my security for their venture without upside. No equity stake, no decision-making role, just exposure to their risks. Yet their stares bore in Wanda's unyielding demand. Andrew's silent plea to avoid disruption. Flashes of my 15-year-old self resurfaced. That desperate grasp for acknowledgement amid dismissal, compelling compliance despite better judgment. I grasped the ornate pen from her desk, the weight mirroring the invisible chains. The signature flowed, binding me in a web I'd long sought to evade. Wanda's hand patted my shoulder, a possessive motion devoid of genuine warmth. "Good girl," she murmured, the scant praise ringing hollow after years of scarcity. The act lingered as a pivotal misstep, one manipulated through familial pressure. In retrospect, it illuminated their patterns, ventures masked as opportunities, burdens shifted under guises of unity. The new resort narrative concealed deeper fiscal strains. A Miami project collapse that eroded their credit undetected by outsiders. Now, in the aftermath of withdrawal, that liability dissolved like vapor. The freedom tasted sharp. Unencumbered by their expectations, professional strides in Baltimore accelerated, unhindered by those ties. The merger's closure affirmed my trajectory, a realm where merit dictated outcomes, not inherited obligations. Reflections on that signing deepened resolve, transforming regret into fuel for autonomy. The office encounter replayed in fragments, Wanda's calculated slide of documents, Andrew's placating words. The pens glide across paper, each element reinforced the necessity of severance, a step toward reclaiming agency. Their empire's facade cracked under scrutiny, revealing dependencies they'd concealed. My involvement had propped it temporarily, but extraction exposed vulnerabilities. This shift marked liberation, a deliberate uncoupling from dynamics that stifled growth. The $2 million shadow lifted, allowing pursuit of paths aligned with personal vision in Baltimore's dynamic environment. Such independence thrived, contrasting San Diego's stagnant hierarchies. That evening, in our Baltimore apartment, the day's wait settled into a different rhythm. Our space served as a refuge, filled with the aroma of simmering sauce and the casual clutter of shared routines, unmatched mugs on the counter. Eric's engineering sketches scattered across the table. It contrasted sharply with the polished veneer of my parents' world, a place grounded in authenticity rather than display. I recounted the text's arrival and my subsequent call to William, the words spilling out with measured detachment, as if detailing a routine transaction rather than a severance of roots. Eric paused mid-stir at the stove, wiping his hands on a dish towel before joining me at the table. His expression shifted from casual to contemplative, absorbing the implications. "You declared war on Wanda Sanders," he observed, his voice low but pointed, framing the act as a deliberate escalation against a formidable opponent. The phrasing captured the strategic undercurrents, acknowledging her influence without exaggeration. He outlined the potential repercussions methodically, his engineering mindset dissecting variables like a complex system. The wedding fund we'd meticulously built could face interference, he noted, alongside disruptions to my professional network and social circles. Wanda's reach extended far, capable of leveraging connections to undermine stability in subtle ways. The warnings resonated, stirring a knot of anticipation in my core, not fear, but a heightened awareness of the battlefield ahead. I reached for his hand across the table, our fingers intertwining in a silent pact. "Ready for us," I affirmed, the statement carrying resolve born from shared history. It encapsulated our partnership, a counterbalance to the isolation I'd navigated alone for years. We proceeded with dinner, twirling pasta on forks in an attempt at normalcy, the meal's warmth a temporary shield against the encroaching tension. Yet the phone remained conspicuously quiet on the counter, its stillness more foreboding than any alert, a prelude to inevitable unrest. As we cleared plates and settled into the evening routine, a notification pierced the calm. My banking app flagged an irregularity, prompting a quick check. A hold gripped my $50,000 investment fund, earmarked for wedding expenses. The note citing pending verification of ownership. "Contact the branch," it urged, but the intent was clear, a maneuver to assert control from afar. "She started," I stated, my hands remaining steady despite the internal surge of confirmation. The action validated Eric's foresight, transforming abstract concerns into tangible pressure. It underscored Wanda's playbook, strikes at vulnerabilities to reassert dominance. In that moment, the apartment's familiarity amplified my determination, turning personal space into a fortified ground. The hold represented not just a financial snag, but a test of boundaries I'd long allowed to blur. Reflecting inwardly, the incident evoked a surge of vigilance, a reminder of past concessions that had eroded autonomy. Eric's presence anchored me, his practical outlook complementing my analytical approach. We discussed contingencies briefly, mapping responses without panic, the conversation weaving strategy with reassurance. The evening unfolded in tense quiet, dishes washed and news flickering on the screen, each mundane task laced with underlying alert. This initial retaliation sharpened focus, illuminating the stakes beyond mere disconnection. The fund's freeze disrupted plans, yet it fueled a deeper commitment to resilience. Baltimore's urban pulse outside the window mirrored my internal shift from reactive to proactive. Eric's warnings, delivered with steady warmth, reinforced our alliance, a foundation unmarred by conditional loyalties. The night's progression highlighted contrasts, our simple meal against their elaborate gatherings, our honest exchanges versus their calculated interactions. The hold's timing, swift and targeted, betrayed desperation masked as authority. Internally, it stirred a quiet defiance, transforming intrusion into impetus for fortification. As bedtime approached, the phone's continued silence amplified anticipation, a strategic pause before escalation. We prepared for rest, the apartment's confines offering solace amid uncertainty. The incident crystallized the conflict's scope, extending from familial dismissal to broader incursions. Yet in Eric's companionship, I found equilibrium, a counterweight to the disequilibrium they'd imposed. This breach into personal finances marked the onset of their counteroffensive, a predictable extension of control tactics. It prompted internal recalibration, prioritizing safeguards for our shared future. The evening's events, though unsettling, affirmed the necessity of boundaries, turning potential vulnerability into strengthened resolve. At 3 a.m., phone vibrated off nightstand, jolting me from fragmented rest. The display illuminated a barrage of alerts, their persistence cutting through the apartment's hush. 88 missed calls had piled up, broken down as Wanda's 30, Andrew's 20, Jacob's 25, and Cody's 13. The breakdown revealed priorities, with Jacob's volume hinting at personal stakes amid the collective frenzy. I paused, weighing the intrusion against curiosity. Before connecting to his incoming line, his tone emerged constricted, edged with an unfamiliar urgency that pricked my alertness. "Mom lost it," he relayed, crafting tales of my unraveling to consultants and confidants. The spin aimed to undermine my credibility, a maneuver to salvage their position through misdirection. I absorbed the details, a thread of astonishment weaving through my thoughts as he pressed on unbidden. "The books don't add up," he disclosed, his delivery weighted with implication. Inflated expenses scattered throughout, coupled with income flows that defied scrutiny, origins opaque and erratic. This exposure ignited a spark of corroboration inside me, aligning with vague doubts I'd harbored but never pursued. It signaled a breach in his accustomed loyalty, the favored successor peering into shadows he'd previously ignored. Asking help, I probed, the query surfacing with measured intent. Gauging his vulnerability in the pre-dawn hour, the silence lingered, intensifying the solitude of the moment, until he murmured his response. "No one else," he admitted, the phrase resonating with a solitude that echoed my own historical exclusions. The exchange echoed in my consciousness as the line went quiet, a juncture where perspectives began to converge. Rest eluded me thereafter, mind sifting through ramifications of his insights. The family's fiscal architecture, once presumed solid, now displayed fissures via his lens, the privileged one confronting foundational flaws. As faint light hinted at dawn, an email pinged from my aunt, Erin Brooks. Her dispatch included preliminary compilations of email trails outlining indications of fabricated loans. The file sketched inconsistencies, sequences of exchanges that implicated misuse of my identifiers. Erin's role, as a distanced relative often overlooked, injected an impartial viewpoint free from routine entanglements. Within, the material evoked a rush of precision, assembling shards from earlier hunches. The trails implied intentional fabrication, a scheme surpassing the original assurance. This awareness heightened my vigilance, evolving from mere disengagement to deliberate examination. Erin's input resembled an anchor, her marginal standing facilitating entry to disregarded particulars. With morning's advance, the nocturnal revelations fused into a comprehensive view. Jacob's outreach had pried an opening, Erin's contribution expanding it substantially. The padded costs he referenced synced with conceivable concealments. Outlays exaggerated to veil deficits. Dubious revenues suggested inventive ledger practices, possibly external arrangements or undisclosed operations evading oversight. This progression added strata to the preliminary rupture, unveiling extents of involvement I'd undervalued. My function in their framework, formerly tangential, surfaced as a cornerstone they'd manipulated. The counterfeit aspects in Erin's trails indicated premeditated hazards. Records tampered to procure extra capital sans approval. Contemplating Jacob's murmur, a notion of mutual confinement arose, not empathy, but acknowledgement of parallel constraints under Wanda's regime. His reticence unveiled inner turmoil, the designated successor wrestling with disenchantment. Erin's initiative emphasized bonds transcending lineage, her transmissions evidence of silent vigilance across time. The initial trail specified chronologies and correspondence, snippets proposing orchestration to evade detection. This substantiation fortified my stance, transitioning from defensive posture to enlightened initiative. Inside, it stirred a subdued authority, the evening's interruptions channeling into tactical anticipation. Baltimore's early stirring sounded beyond the pains. A cue of existence past the upheaval. The call's insistence, now framed, diminished in impact, supplanted by directed purpose. Jacob's disclosures and Aaron's aid denoted pivotal shifts, clarifying routes amid the disarray. The next morning, storm hit with unyielding force. An email from Jacob landed first, its subject line terse and demanding attention. "Fix this," it urged, detailing a 30-day notice for supplemental collateral triggered by my withdrawal. The bank's response loomed as a deadline, pressuring their operations into a scramble for liquidity without alerting markets. Internally, this validated the leverage I'd seized, a calculated disruption to their equilibrium. Calls resumed relentlessly, a digital siege on my device. Wanda's rang with imperative tones, each voicemail a directive laced with authority, insisting on reversal. Andrew's interspersed guilt-laden pleas, his messages evoking familial bonds frayed by my actions. Cody's contributions carried urgency, his accountant precision underscoring fiscal perils. The barrage formed a symphony of desperation, each participant revealing facets of their entanglement in the unfolding crisis. I silenced notifications, channeling energy into work obligations. The merger's aftermath required follow-up analyses, tasks that anchored me amid the external turbulence. Colleagues' interactions proceeded unaware, their focus on metrics providing a buffer against the personal onslaught. This detachment amplified my sense of agency, transforming interruptions into background noise while priorities aligned with independent pursuits. A week later, I boarded a flight to San Diego, the journey a deliberate step toward resolution. Their office awaited, a familiar arena now charged with impending reckoning. Wanda, Andrew, and Jacob positioned themselves in the conference room, postures rigid with expectation. Wanda occupied the head seat, her demeanor projecting command despite underlying strain. "Retract now," she commanded, her words slicing the air with finality. The instruction framed the encounter as a formality, presuming compliance. I remained standing, altering the dynamic to one of oversight rather than submission. It was bailout, not resort, I countered, voice level and factual, dismantling the original deception with concise revelation. Jacob rose abruptly, his movement breaking the tension. Worse, he interjected, his admission carrying the gravity of unearthed truths. "2 more forged loans my name," he elaborated, the disclosure a pivot from allegiance to alliance. The added infractions escalated the stakes, exposing layers of manipulation beyond initial suspicions. Aaron transmitted the full email trail concurrently, her timing synchronized via prior arrangement. The compilation detailed Wanda's computer origins, complete with timestamps that pinned the alterations to specific instances. This evidence crystallized the scheme's mechanics, a digital footprint irrefutable in its clarity. Wanda erupted in fury, her composure fracturing under exposure. Blame shifted to Cody, her accusations a desperate redirection to preserve facade. The deflection rang transparent, a tactic eroded by mounting proofs. I activated the airdrop to the room's large screen, projecting the trail for collective viewing, the display amplifying the incontrovertible links. The revelation hung heavy, stripping away pretenses in real time. Wanda's rage morphed into deflection, her attempts to reframe faltering against the screen's glow. Andrew's silence deepened, his role as balancer rendered obsolete. Jacob's stance solidified, his contribution a bridge toward accountability. This confrontation unfolded methodically, each element building on prior disclosures. The office's pacific view, once a symbol of triumph, now framed a scene of unraveling. Internal surges of vindication coursed through me, a culmination of suppressed insights finding outlet. The airdrop's execution sealed the exposure, timestamps aligning with Wanda's solitary sessions. Cody's implicated status crumbled under scrutiny, his loyalty no shield against the cascade. The room's atmosphere thickened with realization, the family's united front dissolving into individual reckonings. Empowerment surged within, the standoff affirming my trajectory beyond their influence. Wanda's blame game exposed vulnerabilities, her authority waning in the face of facts. The encounter marked a threshold, transitioning from endurance to assertion. Over the next 6 months, the fallout materialized in stark, irreversible forms. The hotel chain plunged into Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings, a restructuring bid that exposed underlying frailties to creditors and stakeholders. Wanda and Andrew navigated civil suits alleging fraud, their maneuvers scrutinized in courtrooms where affidavits detailed the forged elements. Divorce filings followed, splintering their partnership amid asset freezes that halted liquidations and preserved evidence for ongoing probes. These developments unfolded publicly, tarnishing the Sanders brand in industry circles. Jacob transitioned to a modest role at a boutique inn, his expertise curtailed by the empire's collapse. Communication ceased entirely, a mutual silence that severed lingering threads without ceremony. His path diverged into obscurity from my vantage, a consequence of choices rooted in prior alignments. In contrast, my trajectory ascended in Baltimore. Promotion to senior analyst arrived swiftly, accompanied by a substantial merger bonus that reflected the deal's impact. The recognition stemmed from demonstrated prowess, free from familial shadows, affirming a career sculpted through individual merit. The wedding with Eric unfolded in a serene garden venue in Baltimore, bathed in the soft glow of fairy lights under a September sky. A jazz trio provided understated melody, complementing the intimate gathering of chosen friends who celebrated without pretense. No elaborate toasts on legacies, just genuine exchanges amid laughter and shared stories, a ceremony defined by our terms. We acquired a condo with a harbor view shortly after, its modern lines offering a canvas for our life together. One clear evening on the balcony, as city lights mirrored stars below, Eric posed a quiet inquiry. "Think about them," he ventured, his tone gentle yet probing. "Don't care," I responded, the words emerging with unforced certainty, encapsulating a profound detachment. The sentiment marked closure, a release from cycles that once consumed energy. Independence from toxic family brings peace, a truth etched through this journey. Building chosen family fosters genuine connections, unbound by obligation. Facing real consequences, like bankruptcy and suits in America, underscores accountability, a system where actions yield tangible outcomes. This evolution evoked a sense of relief, the absence of prior burdens creating space for unhindered growth. Fulfillment derived from self-directed achievements. The promotion, a milestone untainted by external validations. The wedding's simplicity highlighted authenticity, contrasting with contrived spectacles of the past. The condo's harbor panorama symbolized renewal, waves lapping as metaphors for persistent forward motion. Eric's companionship anchored this phase, our dialogues evolving without undercurrents of unresolved conflicts. Detachment from their narrative allowed immersion in present joys, a shift that deepened appreciation for curated bonds. Bankruptcy's mechanics. Under Chapter 11 involved reorganization plans that failed to salvage their holdings fully. Civil suits progressed with depositions revealing discrepancies, fraud claims substantiated by trails, divorce proceedings entangled assets, freezes ensuring equitable scrutiny amid dissolution. Jacob's diminished role reflected broader repercussions, his expertise redirected to smaller scales without recourse to family resources. The lack of contact solidified boundaries, a deliberate void that prevented regression. Professional advancement in Baltimore reinforced autonomy, the bonus facilitating investments aligned with personal goals. The garden ceremony's fairy lights evoked warmth, jazz notes weaving through conversations with allies who valued essence over appearance. Eric's question on the balcony prompted introspection, my reply affirming liberation from lingering curiosities. The harbor's expanse mirrored internal expanse. Free from constrictions, peace through independence manifests in daily equilibria. Chosen family as pillars of support. America's legal framework enforces consequences. Bankruptcy restructuring demands transparency. Suits compel restitution. Relief permeated routines. Unburdened decisions yielding clarity. Fulfillment blossomed in milestones like the promotion, a testament to sustained effort. Detachment enabled full engagement with the present. The condo's view a daily affirmation. The chain's collapse rippled through suppliers. Chapter 11 filings public records that invited scrutiny. Wanda's defenses crumbled in suits. Fraud allegations upheld by evidence. Andrew's involvement drew parallel accountability, divorce accelerating amid frozen holdings. Jacob's adaptation to modest employment underscored individual fallout. No bridges rebuilt in silence. My elevation to senior analyst highlighted contrast. Bonus a direct reward for merger execution. The wedding's garden setting fostered intimacy, fairy lights enhancing the jazz-infused atmosphere among true companions. The balcony's query elicited honest dismissal, solidifying emotional closure. Independence cultivates serenity. Chosen bonds nurture without toxicity. Legal repercussions in America, from bankruptcy protections to fraud litigations, ensure equitable resolutions.